All right, show my desktop. So we will pick up from where we left off last time.
Okay.
This is the class. Now, the last time we were at this here, we were trying to send something up to the server, and we were getting this error here. It kept on saying undefined, undefined, undefined.
All right.
And I was making a very simple and stupid mistake. This word header here has to be plural. It has to say headers. So let's show you here. I'll leave it as header. You make it's very easy to make simple mistakes. I submit it, and there it is undefined. Now, if I put the S in there, I was running around for about 20 minutes trying to figure out why. It was something very simple, and that often is the case. So now what we need to do is we need to restart the server as well.
Is that because that's part of the
Yeah, so it's
of the application?
Well, yeah, it's because this is when you're sending this is what the syntax is. The syntax requires this to be headers because you could be sending multiple headers. In this particular case, I'm just sending one, the content type, but you could be sending multiples. So it has to be plural. That was the problem. So now I fixed it, and we'll see here. And we'll go here back to our server here, refresh. And now if I type and do some stuff here. Okay, now it added it. Now if we look at our server, now there it is. We got all our values.
Okay.
So now the nice thing is here, this thing here, you take this, you go into a different browser. You get the same list, right? So it's there because it's saved on the server now. The problem is, if I restart the server, that memory is going to be gone because it's lost. It's held in memory so long as the server is running. Once you stop the server, it's gone.
Okay.
And this is not the way you would typically do it. So we go in here, now we'll see that this row I added is gone. The only thing that's there is the 3 values that are hard-coded. Right here. That's not typically the way you do it. The typically way you would do it is you would use a database. So now tonight we'll look at adding a database component to it. So we'll look at our, I think we got our chart here. We got our little image here. Where was that little image I had there? Let's go in here.
But Bob, isn't in also in conventional processes, wouldn't you also store that some of that data locally?
No.
Okay.
You might cache it into the server locally for performance, but ultimately it has to be stored in the database.
Okay.
Right. Ultimately it has to be stored in the database. And we had a little image there that we had. What happened to it? Was this in here? Oh, this is it right here. Okay. Here we go.
Yeah, that's it.
So our little image from last week. Remember, this is the browser or the iPhone. The app server is this right here, all this JavaScript code server. And now the final end component is the database.
Right.
Tonight, we're going to look at MySQL. Next week, maybe we'll look at Mongo.
Okay.
So for MySQL, we have to set up the MySQL database. So first thing you'd have to do is you have to install MySQL if you want to use it. And what I use a nice little tool. It's called XAMPP, which you can download it. And just by searching, do a search here, download XAMPP. If you're using Windows, and they also have a Mac version. It's free, and what it gives you a MySQL database. It also gives you some other things if you want to do PHP or something else, but I'm just using the database here. So that will install MySQL. So let's make a couple of notes here. You have to download MySQL for XAMPP, which includes MySQL. Okay, that's the database engine. There's the database engine, which is MySQL.
Okay.
Now, to use MySQL, what you also might want to do is download something called MySQL Workbench. And again, these are free. These are all free. You can go again here, download MySQL Workbench. Where is it? This is what MySQL Workbench looks like. I've got a couple of databases connected. The one we're looking at is my local host. Local host means it's running on my computer. And this is a MySQL workbench for working with databases. You get a default database when you when you install MySQL called test. I created a new one called training. So now what we want to do, because we say we want to store these friends on the database. So we look at the structure here is pretty simple. It's just 3 fields. So we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to create a table called friends, and we're going to give it 3 fields: last name, first name, and email.
Bob, can I ask you one question?
Go right ahead.
Do you have to download both of them, XAMPP and MySQL?
You have to download XAMPP because that's the database server.
Oh, okay.
However, for working with MySQL, it's going to be a lot easier if you download XAMPP and MySQL Workbench as well.
Okay,
it's just easier because it's a nice GUI tool for working with the database.
Okay.
So, for example, I'm going to show you how to create a table in MySQL Workbench. You right-click on the tables, you click Create Table, and we're going to call this table Friends. And if we look at it here, going to right, we need 3 columns: last name, first name, and email. Now you can give these table column names the exact same names, like last name, and the data type to match for characters or strings such as name is varchar, and you have to give it a length. So this would be varchar with just 50, saying 50 characters. That's the maximum number of characters it can have. We also need first name. We'll call this 50. And now lastly, we have email. We might want to make this a little bit bigger because some people have very long email addresses. So maybe we say 100. Okay. Now, once we do this, we click apply, apply. And now it's in. Now, what this thing did here, which is not a good idea. So I'm going to delete this table and recreate it, because this thing is saying, the database is saying it wants to create a primary key, and it automatically defaulted to the first column. That's kind of a bad idea, because now you're only allowed to have a single exact last name. Like you only have one Smith. So that's not a good idea. So I'm going to show you what we should do instead. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and go and just say drop the table. And I'm going to create it over again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it something called an ID. Primary keys. What a primary key is, it's a value that uniquely identifies the row. And you can almost think of it as like being a social security number or something that uniquely identifies, the number that uniquely identifies you. PK means primary key. NN means not null. Some of these other values like UK, we don't really need. It's unique key, and we don't have to go through some of these. This other one over here is important as well. This is called AI, means auto increment. That means it's going to automatically generate a key for it. So now we're going to go here. Last name. Okay, again, varchar 50. First name. Varchar, we'll do this 50 as well. Email. And we'll make this a little bit bigger. 100. Okay. Now, if I click the apply button here, it's going to create this table. And oh, I didn't give it a name. Okay, I think I can just go right click and say rename. Can we just say rename? Maybe I can't. Can that rename it? Can you let me rename it? If I just do that. Okay, it doesn't let me rename it. Okay, so I got to drop it again. I have to drop it again, make sure I give it a name again. Okay, hopefully 3rd time's a charm. Let's go ahead and actually, maybe I got this here. I might be able to do this here. Friends. You just want to call this friends. Okay, let's go ahead to apply. I didn't like that. Okay. So let's just go ahead and drop and close that. Don't save. Right click, create table. This time make sure I give it a name, friends. ID, then integer, primary key, auto increment. Last name. 50. First name. Varchar 50. Email Let's say varchar 100. Okay. Okay, now there it is. Create the table. So what we want to do is when someone submits data, we want to save it into this database. Right now, there's nothing there. It's empty. So what we have to use is that we're going to show two CRUD operations tonight. CRUD, and show two CRUD operations. CRUD operations. What does CRUD stand for? CRUD, the C stands for create. The R stands for retrieve. U stands for update, and D delete. Now in the SQL language, CRUD, using SQL or structured query language, called structured query language, is implemented in SQL. The create command is inserted in SQL with what's known as the insert command. Retrieve is implemented with the select command. The update is called update, and delete is called delete. Okay, update to delete. Okay. Those are the CRUD operations. Tonight, we're going to implement just two of them, select and insert. Okay. So back to this thing here. So we're going to replace this friends table. So we're going to say when someone gives us this thing here, that we get all this information, that's great. But now we have to insert into the database. How would we do that? We have to bring in a driver that allows us to use MySQL. There's a number of drivers out there. The one that's easiest to use is called Sync MySQL. And maybe we'll get to some others later. MySQL equals require sync MySQL. MySQL. SQL. There we go. So that'll give us access to the driver. Now in here, I've got the post. So what do I do? Now we have to create an insert statement, something called an insert statement. And that's going to look something like, let's say insert is equal to insert into friend, the three columns, last name, first name, and email. And then we have to have some values. Okay, let me see. All right, let's do it this way here. The easiest way to do this would be something like this. Using a backtick and values dollar friend last name. And see. And email. Okay, so that would be, we'll call an insert. This is create an insert statement. And what I'm going to do here, not quite done yet. Do backtick again. We'll just do a console.log So we can see what it looks like. Insert. Insert. Okay, then we're gonna need to get our connection. Get the database connection. The database connection actually should be established up here. So it's already set up. Okay, const connection equal to new my SQL. And what we're going to have here is going to be host. It's going to be local host. Host. User. Root. Password. I don't think I've got a password. And database. Training. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do here is I should just say connection. Let's wait till this is done down here, maybe. Connection dot query insert. Okay, it's really all you should have to do. All right. Let's see if this works. We'll restart this and it says module not found. I knew that was going to happen. It says it cannot find module sync MySQL. That's because we have to install it. So to install a package in Node, it's npm, which stands for Node Package Manager, install sync MySQL. Okay, let's start running the server now. So it's running. Now we go back to this thing here. Do a refresh. That's what I was trying to add it. Okay, let's take a look what happened here. Didn't like something. No such terrible training friend. Okay, let's see. Ah, because I called it friends. That's why. Okay. Okay, so it should be friends. That's why I didn't want. Okay, let's try again. Okay, let's see what happened here. This did not seem to give us an error. So what we would do is we go to our database. Ta-da! There it is. It's in our database. Okay, that's good. Now, what about happens when we stop the server? Restart it. It's not there, even though it's on our database. The reason being is that this thing is still being fed by the hard-coded array list. So now in this friends, we have to change this. Now in this friends list, we have to do something a little different here. We need to, we're going to leave that alone. Maybe let's see. Let's just make this. I want to save this because we're going to need this. Let's just say let friends equal an empty array. Empty array. So now what we have to do instead, we have to say, let's say const result, or you can say, yeah, const friends. You can just say friends is equal to connection dot query select star. So this is the retrieve one. Friend. Okay. Oops. See what happens when we do that. See if that works. What will happen? We're gonna do this. Now we've only got Tester Bob, but it's there. Right? And if I go and I add someone else, test 2. I don't know, Jim at 2.com, and I add it. There it is. I got it. Look in my database. In my database. Now, I'll go over to where I had the other one. There they are. Now, if I stop my server and restart it, voila, still there. The reason it's still there is because the data is now persisted into the database. That's why it's still there.
Right, it's pulling,
Right.
it's pulling from the database.
Pulling from the database.
Okay.
So it's now persisted in the database. Now,
So
for
can
these
you
friends,
delete
if I wanted
this
to load them, I could.
Right.
I could write a little routine to load them. So probably what we'd want to do is we'd want to pull all this sequence logic out of here. And probably want to do take all this, you need this, and create like a helper function. And you just call it function, add friend, friend, and do this here. So now we just take this thing and just say add friend. Friend. Okay, we'll add this. We'll do this again. Now, if I come in here and they're there, add another one. I don't know. Thursday test. That's at Thursday.com. Add it to the list. Now it's there. Take a look at our database. And it's there. All right. Now, let's just say, oh, I've got this existing data. I want to load it into the database. A couple of ways you could do this. You could do this right in here. And maybe you call, sometimes you might call a method called seed. What does seed do? Let's just say something like done. What seed can do is simply say for let I in friends 2, and just say add friend friends 1 sub I. Okay, we'll restart this. So it's a little root that's going to go through this list here. It's going to grab the values from here. It's going to add it. It's going to call the add friend function we created down here, or method we created down here, that'll add it into our database. So now I can just come up to the browser and to localhost 3000. Yeah, it's 3000 /seed. Now it says done. Okay, let's see if it is done. Ta-da! There they all are. Now it's in that list. And if we go to our database, right there, they're all in there. Now we got our list of all the ones that are in there. Now, let's see. We got our list. One of the things we could do is we could test, if we have some more time, that one is add some more routes to this thing. One route might be to do a delete. We no longer need this seed route. We're done here. Let's just do this here. Let's say delete. And say ID. Let's just give us an ID. And then we'll create a delete statement. And you can call this whatever you want. And it's going to be delete from friends where ID is equal to, and we can just do a string concatenation ID. This will create a delete. It doesn't seem to like this. I think there's a reserved word is why const DL. So okay, that's okay. All right. And now just say connection.query DL. That should delete it from the database.
Okay.
Right. So first thing we'll do, and then we'll say they deleted. Run the server again. I can call this directly from the browser because I know that this thing is called delete. And if we look at our database, you'll see that they've all got IDs here. So let's say I want to delete the second one. /2 says deleted. So let's see if it really is. Well, we can do our refresh here and see if it's gone. And it is, it's gone. Look at our database, it's gone. So that's the third CRUD operation right there. Delete. We need to add this to the application though. And let's take a look at what we got here. We got this browser. A couple of things you could do here. Let's see the main method here. This is, we got our render friends. Render friends comes from that. Okay. So event listener. Okay, all right. So we have this table here. All right. So all right, we declare it globally up here. So let's see. So you want to delete this thing here, renders the friends. One way, once. So right now, this is just doing a line item. Oh no, we're doing a table now. That's right. Okay. So one way we could do this here is we could put it in an option, delete option. So this is what we could do. We say href is equal to, I'm going to say JavaScript, say remove. Yes, can't really call it delete because that's a reserved word. So we can just probably say remove. And do something like this, like an X. Okay, so what am I doing here? I'm creating A as a reference, and A reference is going to link off to something. And this could be okay. I'm telling it to execute a JavaScript function called remove.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to create that function, and this is going to be a fetch function remove idx. What I'm passing into that function is this I value, which is actually the index into the array friends. So now, in order to get the ID that I actually want to delete, I have to pull it out of the array. So const ID, because the database wants the ID, not the index. Friends, it should be friends sub idx that ID. That's what it should be. And console.log. Delete. Get a little in here. ID. Okay, we'll just do that for now, just to see how this thing works. Well, eventually, we're going to call this fetch method to do the delete. Let me see. Okay, so that doesn't look so good. What did we do wrong here? Oh, I know why. Our border, this needs something here. So we'll just say here, delete. Delete. See if that looks better. No, it still doesn't look right. Okay, so let's take a look what we got here. Okay, so here, TRO. Ah, yeah, we got the big TDs in here. TD. TD. Okay. Okay. Yeah, why is there no X here? You miss one? Oh. These three friends. Of course, that doesn't seem right. Seems like we're missing something here. There should be 6 of them. Where's the other? So something's not quite right there. Still missing something. Oh, I think I see what it is. Forgot this here. Okay, good. Now, if we just do a console log inspect here, console, and then I say here, ID, so delete 1, 3. Okay, so we're getting the right IDs. So the next part would be then to call here. We did do this fetch, something similar to this here. We're going to call friends. Actually, this time we're going to say delete. And we have to give it the ID. Now the response here, but the response here could be anything. So the response here, after we delete it, we could say to give it an updated table, right? So now here, after we do the delete, what we could do is, okay, you have to do the delete, then we do that, and we send the updated table. Okay, so now it's got the update with one less person in there. And then after we get that data, we re-render the table so that it's gone. Okay, so let's start this one over again. Let's refresh that. And now let's say we want to delete Mr. Thursday. Let's see if that works. Ooh, looks like it worked. Let's see. Check out the database. Boom, it's gone.
Mm.
Thursday's gone. So that's your delete operation. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Do something.
Okay, go ahead.
So do you have any questions so far?
No, I'm pretty much following that IDX.
Okay.
That's just a value. That's just a what you're passing through, right?
Right. So the IDX is the variable, is the index into the array.
Right.
So what I'm doing, let me just get this here, be a little easier. So when they click on this little X, this little X there is the same as that little X here. What it does is it calls this JavaScript function called remove, and I'm passing into this I. This I is the index into the friends array. So it's basically 0, 1, 2, 3, something like that. It does that. Okay. So now what would be next? So the next thing would be
update.
Okay, someone keeps on trying to call me. The next CRUD operation would be update. Okay. So let's say we want to do an update. In order to do an update, where are we at here? Okay, so we got this. In order to do an update, we would need to be able to click on this and then populate these fields with that value. And then when you click this button, it would have to do an update. So,
Right.
all right. So let's take a look what we got here. I have to give this button an ID. Let me say submit button. That's the ID submit button. Now we can do this one of a couple of different ways. One thing you could do, you could also put you could just put a link on the name or something. You click on the link, or maybe you want to do something different here. Put another column in, I guess. Put another column in, I think it's better. So we can do almost the same thing as here. Right, let's get this guy right here. This is what we want. We also want to do almost the same thing here. All right, except this time we'll call it, say, I'm not sure if edit's reserved, probably not. Say edit. And here we're gonna do something different here. Like a lot of times the ellipticals for this is gonna be something like that. Or you could just put the word edit in here too. Okay, now we'll have to go into here and add that here, column, another column. If you want to edit. Okay. We'll have to add function, be very similar to remove. Okay, well, that's not really true. So we have to do here. Now we say function, edit, again, the IDX, that you want to edit. And once you get that, a couple of things you're going to want to do is you're going to need to keep a track of who you're editing. So you might create a variable like a global variable, let current index, and give it a value. You want to give it an initial value of -1. The reason you want to do that is because the array index is started 0. So you have to, the current, if it's not being edited, in other words, you're adding something, you have to give it a value that is not a possible valid index value. So that would have to be something less than 0. Okay, so once you get this, you would set this current index equal to the index that came in. Now we've got to get information. So let's see what we got here. We created all these last name, first name. You also want to have a button const. That's the submit. Okay, here the submit. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So for the submit goes this is what we're gonna have to do. When we submit it, now when you submit it, it has to know whether it's an insert or an update. So we have to pass the ID into it. Normally, so we can say here, we say const ID is equal to, and I'm going to use an inline, one of those ternary operators. Current IDX is equal to -1. Then the ID will be 0. Otherwise, it will be friends sub current IDX that ID. And when the reason I'm going to do this is say ID to ID, comma, and do that. I'm going to grab this. And down here, so when they submit it, we still want to have the ID, the const submit button. Button is equal to submit button. Okay, so when we go and we do the edit, now we're gonna have to say here, where we got this thing. Oh, last name dot, okay, last name exchange, okay. For the modification, okay, last name dot values you can be equal to friends sub IDX dot last name. First name dot value is equal to friends sub IDX dot first name. Email dot value with the friends sub IDX dot email. Then you're going to say submit button dot inner HTML. We'll do save friend. We're going to change the text of what it says there. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing here, see what happens. Do that. If I click edit, edit, it changes that value in there. So now I can make a change to the value. So that, let's see what happens here. Okay, so now when they do the submit, we'll see what this thing says. The server, when you post it, now we have to get this, we have to do an additional ID request dot body dot ID. Let's do this here. Let's post friend. I have friend. I'm gonna disable this temporarily because I just want to make sure it gets it correctly, but we'll just do a console log. Or actually, we can call add friend. That's fine. Add, so now add friends can be a little more complicated. Console.log friend. Well, probably what we need to have is 2 methods. All right, so let's just console log this. Console.log friend. Okay, let's just change this here now. This again. Now, if I come in here and I modify this, and I still let me say test2, ob2, ob2. So they all get updated. Quick save. Okay, so now let's see what we got on the server. The server got right here, got all the values. It says that ID1. So now we have to just tell it to do an update. So now what we'll also do here is just say if friend.id is greater than 0, that means it's an update, not an add. Otherwise, we're going to do the add as usual. So now we're going to have to create a similar method to this, but we're going to call it update friend. Let's update. An update command looks a little different. It's going to be the word update. The syntax is a little bit different. It's going to say set. And then it'll be name is equal to this guy right there. It'll be first name is equal to first name. We don't need this part anymore. Get rid of this part. Equal to email. But now we have to do a where clause, where ID is equal to friend.id. And we'll do it, and this will be called this, I guess, update instead. PD, we'll update. We don't probably want to do this. Actually, we don't even need to do this anymore. Okay, so query update, console log friend. After we do this, what does this thing do? It does a row added post. Okay, so this is going to give us update friend. Okay, update friend, and that's so this will do an update instead of a delete. Right, okay. Now this thing I think needs to return something. Let's say let's that equal empty object. That is equal to. The reason I'm doing this is because the message needs to be a little different.
Okay.
Right, it needs to be a little different. Yeah. So this thing, after it does it, it'll do a return. What it was doing right there. This one will be a little different. Really just going to say return row updated. In our main, it's going to go, it's going to do this here. We're going to call this thing, it's going to give us a console log data. That's, hold on a second. This is the submit. Call it to refresh the data. So what this thing probably should do after the update is it probably should return. It should actually, instead of this, what it should do, I think. Actually, what it should do instead, it should just return the data. Right, it should just actually do this. Okay, so main gets this, it's gonna get data. Data is really gonna be friends. So you just update this here, friends. Do the data. You just want to update the thing, you want to refresh the thing dynamically. All right, so let's see how this thing looks here. Okay, let's go here, let's do the same thing. Put a 2 in here. Okay, let's see what happened here. Okay, it looks like it did an update.
Yeah.
So let's go to the database and see if it did an update. Ta-da!
Yeah.
With the update. So the database is updated, and if we go to our list here, the list is updated as well. That all got updated.
Yeah.
Now, probably Oh, you're still here. Have to decide. You probably should reset everything after the save. All right, it's probably so. If you look at your, here's your save. So you're gonna do this here. Render friends table. Why don't we just do it in the renders table? Thing. Say card index. Reset this guy. And then all these values will be reset to. We'll reset everything. So after you do the render will just reset everything. You could have a separate reset method. Maybe that's better to have a separate reset method. Let's do a reset. Say function reset. It's probably better to do it as a separate function. Okay, there's that. And these guys are just going to get set to empty strings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be add friend. Okay, let's go look at this here. Okay, got that. So let's go edit again. So make sure it's all. And just change one value. Save. Okay, it didn't reset everything for some reason. What happened? What happened? Call render. Render. Oh, I don't mind. Okay, so right here we should probably say reset. Reset. Okay, I didn't do the reset. I didn't do it. Okay, so let's go here. Take a different one here. Let's give John a middle name. Save. It still didn't reset it. What happened? Interesting. Why didn't it reset it? So after you, oh, I put it in the wrong place. It doesn't get done there. No, you have to go. Okay, so hold on. Where are we at here? Okay, this is where we want to do the reset right there. Who else gets an update? Okay, let's get rid of his middle name. Let's say he's now using Gmail. Gmail. Ah, there it is. It worked. Let's make sure the database got updated correctly. Yep, now using Gmail. Okay, good update. So those are all your CRUD operations. We probably should check and make sure we didn't break the insert. Okay, so now if I do something here, this should do an insert. I'm just going to call it insert test. Insert at test.com. What happens here? Okay, it looks like it did. Looks like it did work correctly. And 0, and it did an insert. Good, great. You just check the database, make sure the database is okay. And there it is, insert. You'll notice how the IDs get incremented.
Yeah.
And if you delete someone, it doesn't reset this sequential value. This is a sequential value starting at 1 and it never gets reused. So even though we deleted a few of them, this index does not get reset. It continues with the next number afterwards. So those are all.
It doesn't override it. It just.
I'm sorry. What's that?
It doesn't override the number. It just.
No, it doesn't. It does not reuse it. It does not use a primary key.
Okay.
Primary keys are not reused. Even if they're deleted, they're not recycled.
Okay.
It just keeps going after the next one. Okay. Let's see. All right. So any questions? Let's take a look at this code here. These are kind of a lot of your basic. This is a basic. I mean, these are the basic fundamentals of a web application.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the view, right? The view is basically the web page. The server acts as really the controller,
right?
And the model is really the database. So now at this particular point, we
I was about to say you could remove that now, right?
Remove that. We get rid of that. We no longer need it. Everything is now stored in the database. Okay. That's the way that goes. Don't even need this anymore. Now, one of the things is that let's see. And this is typically the way like an API server would work. We've got this friends, this delete. You could do like a search capability where you search based on, say, a last name. Let's say, do something different here. What do we have here? We have friends. Okay. Put an alt under here and say find. And we'll do it based something simple based on just the last name.
Mhm.
And we'll say const ln is equal to request dot params dot ln. So this is how you specify parameters on the command line, like that right there.
Okay.
And the colon just means that this is actually a variable. It's not something that's represented in lock stock. So now what we have to do is we have to enter this and say where. You can say last name is equal to. Let's use the checks here. Dollar here. You have to put in double quotes. ln. Okay. So let's go and do that. Now I'm going to show you. You can call this from the command line right here. Now I can say find test. Okay. Well, find. Okay. It's find it, not find. Find test. I didn't find it. Let's take a look at our database. What's in our database? Because it doesn't exist. Okay, let's try Smith. Found Smith. Okay, and found the record and displayed it. Now you can make this a little bit more flexible and say something like is like when we start the server. I mean, that means a pattern match here. And now it still found it, but let's say we do that. Yeah, didn't find it. Why didn't it find it? Oh, I know why. You have to put a % sign here. It's a wild card. That's why. Oops, forgot about that. Okay, there it is. Now before, okay, I could have said test didn't work, but now test will work because it's doing a pattern match. The like command in SQL means something that's similar, and there are some wildcards. One of those wildcards is a % sign. % sign means match everything after this character. So if we look at this thing here, we should probably look and see what this thing is doing. Console.log. We need to see. Why don't we just create an array variable out of this here? Here we'll say const query is equal to that query here, and we can also do a console log so you can see what this thing says, what happens, what this thing looks like. Console log query. All right, query. Let's do it like. Okay. This again, if we go into here in our console, you can see what it's doing. So this is saying like test and anything after that. Right. So if I go back into my app, we've got a couple of tests. We've got tester 2. I can create something here that says just test and Frank, I don't know. Frank at test.com. Add it, it's in there. Now, if I go to a little wildcard search and I do a refresh again, now you see I've got both tests. The wildcard search. The way you could implement something on something like here, we'll go to the server and this thing here again. Here's the form. We'll do something like this outside the form. And it's the p tag input type equals text.
So wildcard just means anything?
Yeah, it means anything after that. It means okay. It means basically they don't care what's after that. Just grab. Right. So basically this means all last names that start with test.
Right.
All last names that start with test. So let's put this, give us an ID is pull it here. Search input. Here's a placeholder. Search by last name. Okay, now we're gonna have to give a button or tell it what to do. Button. And give it ID search button. Take find. Okay, now here, these two, we're gonna have to come into here and const search button equals discover here. And this would be search input. Now I have to create an event listener search button. That's actually, these are done. They're done there. Okay, yeah, that's fine. We can do here. Dot add listener. As we click. I don't think we actually need that, but okay, so now we need to do is get that value and pass name can be equal to value. Then we have to do another fetch. Okay, do a fetch, so very similar. And I can just do it this way, fetch. And they say search. And I think we called it find plus the last name. And they should just get us the data back and we refresh our form. See? We have this little search here. So now if I say test, that's interesting. Something went wrong. Something went wrong. Because we did this here. Failed session. We ran the server? Okay, we ran the server. What happened?
Line 46.
Line 46. Okay, so something, we got an error here. I must have forgot to do something. Add listener. There's some like cool in there. Looks like it does it is down here. 46. Okay, why is it not liking that? For some reason, this seemed to have caused a problem. Listener. Huh. Yeah, it caused a problem for some reason. Yeah, there it is. You know, it's okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. Let's say test. Ta-da. Okay, now I can take Smith. Get to Smith. If I do nothing, that should give us everything. Yeah, nothing. Okay, so that gave us actually there's no value given. So we do a refresh, so we get everything. So that's kind of we do a search.
Wow.
Where it's going out. Now, the other thing is if you've got all the data locally, you actually could have done it. You could have just had JavaScript do the search instead of having to go to the server. So if you got it all locally, you can do that. Operations. All right. That's kind of all I wanted to cover tonight.
Okay.
Next week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to look at here. We're basically be kind of doing the same thing, but we're going to look at the other type of database that's becoming increasingly more popular. It's a database called Mongo.
Okay.
MongoDB. We'll see how to do the CRUD operations in Mongo.
Okay.
But basically the same thing. We're just going to use Mongo instead of MySQL. And those are the two. SQL is really the dominant database. SQL relational databases are really the dominant database. But NoSQL databases are starting to become very popular. And there's advantages and disadvantages to each one. And I'll kind of go over the advantages and disadvantages to each one as well.
Okay.
But it's a different way of doing it. A lot of employers today kind of want you to know both.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so we'll probably
But
do that.
It's different commands, different syntax.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is different syntax.
Okay.
Mongo and NoSQL databases use a data structure that looks very much like JavaScript object notation. Now
Okay.
I deleted it. I already deleted our little object notation. I might have it somewhere else. Actually, I think I probably do. So if you go back to the notes from last week, I think I've still got that in the server. Okay, so Mongo stores what they call documents that look just like this.
Mm.
So the nice thing about what people like the NoSQL database is it works very well with JavaScript because it uses the same exact data structure that JavaScript uses. So you don't have to create SQL statements. You could just literally tell Mongo to save this object array, and it'll do that without
Okay.
changing, without having to write SQL statements. So it's actually very nice. It is
Okay.
very nice, but there's some disadvantages too. And next week I will go over some of these advantages and disadvantages to both types of databases.
Okay.
But I think that's probably it for tonight because I don't know if you have any questions. I don't want to start Mongo now because we don't have enough time. We'd be mid. So, and that
Yeah.
wasn't really my plan. Was really just to kind of go over the SQL stuff tonight.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Go over this stuff. All right.
All right. Well, then we'll see you next week.
All right. Thanks
And
a lot.
I'll email you the link to the YouTube when it's uploaded.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.